It was a bright and sunny morning when I first arrived in the city. I had always dreamed of living in a place like this, fast-paced, exciting, and full of opportunities. The tall buildings and busy streets seemed to promise a fresh start. As I walked through the crowded streets, I could feel the energy of the city filling me with excitement and a little bit of fear. Moving to a new city was a big step for me. I had left behind my small hometown, my family, and my friends. I had come here alone to start a new chapter in my life. The job offer that brought me here seemed like a perfect opportunity, but now that I was actually here, everything felt uncertain. Would I be able to adapt to the fast pace of life? Would I find new friends? Would I be able to live up to the expectations at work? As I walked around the city, I reminded myself that this was the beginning of something new. I could feel the possibility in the air, and I was determined to make the most of it. The first few weeks were full of challenges. I had to find a place to live, learn how to navigate the city, and get used to the new environment. The streets were crowded, and the public transportation system was much more complicated than I had imagined. But little by little, I began to get used to it. I found a small apartment in a quiet neighborhood, not far from work, and I started to feel more at home. Work was another story. I had moved here for a new job, and while the work itself was interesting, the company's culture was very different from what I was used to. People were more formal, and there was a clear hierarchy that I had to get used to. At first, I felt like an outsider. I didn't know anyone, and I struggled to make connections. But over time, I began to understand the work culture better. I made a few friends, and things started to feel more comfortable. One of the biggest challenges I faced in this new city was the language. Though I had studied the language for years, speaking it fluently in daily life was something completely different. I made mistakes all the time, and it was frustrating. I would order food at a restaurant and struggle to understand the waiter's response. I would meet new people and feel embarrassed about my accent or my lack of vocabulary, but I didn't give up. I decided to make learning the language a priority. I took language classes, practiced speaking with my colleagues, and read books in the language. Gradually, I became more confident. I realized that the key to learning a language was not to be afraid of making mistakes. With each mistake, I learned something new, and little by little, I felt more comfortable in conversations. The first few months were lonely. I missed my old friends and family, and even though I met new people at work, I didn't feel like I truly belonged. I had left behind a social circle that had been with me for years, and starting over wasn't easy, but as time passed, I began to build new connections. I started spending more time with my colleagues outside of work. We went to cafes after work, had dinner together, and talked about our lives. Slowly but surely, I started to feel more at home. I realized that the key to building new friendships was to be open and patient. People here were friendly, but it took time to form real connections. One evening, after a long day at work, I met a colleague named Anna for coffee. We talked about our hobbies, and she invited me to join a local book club. I was hesitant at first, but I decided to give it a try. It turned out to be a great decision. The book club became one of my favorite places to meet new people, and it helped me feel more connected to the city. As I started to settle into my new life, a new challenge presented itself. The company I worked for went through a major restructuring. Many of my colleagues were let go, and there were rumors about future layoffs. The uncertainty in the air made everyone nervous, including me. My job, which had seemed secure at first, now felt uncertain. The stress was overwhelming at times. I worked harder than ever to prove myself, but the fear of losing my job weighed heavily on me. I began to question if I had made the right decision by moving here. Was this the right city for me? Was I really ready for this new life? In the end, I realized that worrying about things that I couldn't control wasn't helping. Instead of focusing on the things I couldn't change, I focused on what I could do. I worked harder, made sure to keep a positive attitude, and leaned on my new friends for support. One afternoon, after months of uncertainty, my hard work paid off. The company decided to restructure in a way that created new opportunities, and I was offered a promotion. It wasn't just any promotion, it was a position that I had always dreamed of. I was given the responsibility to lead a new project, one that had the potential to shape the future of the company. I couldn't believe it. After all the challenges, the stress, and the uncertainty, I had made it. I felt a sense of pride and accomplishment that I had never felt before. This job was a recognition of all the hard work I had put in, and it gave me a renewed sense of confidence. I knew that I had made the right choice by coming here. With my new role came new challenges. I was responsible for a large team, and I had to make decisions that would impact the entire project. There were days when I felt overwhelmed, unsure if I was ready for this level of responsibility. But I knew that this was the next step in my journey. If I wanted to grow, I had to embrace change and take risks. I spent a lot of time learning how to be a better leader, listening to my team's ideas, and making sure everyone felt heard. It wasn't always easy, but I grew to enjoy the challenge. The project I was working on turned out to be a huge success, and the company recognized our efforts. Through all of the challenges, I began to experience personal growth. I learned to trust myself more, to believe in my abilities, and to step outside of my comfort zone. I also learned the importance of balancing work and personal life. I started to take better care of myself, exercising regularly, and spending more time doing things I enjoyed. The loneliness that had once plagued me began to fade. I had built a strong support network of friends and colleagues. I had become part of the community, and the city no longer felt like a place I was just visiting. It felt like home. As I continued to grow in my career and personal life, I began to develop a new perspective on life. I realized that every challenge, every setback, was an opportunity to learn and improve. Moving to this new city, facing the difficulties, and overcoming them had changed me in ways I hadn't expected. I had become more resilient, more open-minded, and more capable of handling whatever life threw at me. I also learned to appreciate the small things in life. A quiet evening with friends, a walk in the park, a good book. These moments brought me joy and helped me stay grounded in the midst of my busy life. As I looked ahead, I felt excited for the future. There was so much I still wanted to achieve, so many places I wanted to visit, and so many things I wanted to learn. But I also realized that I had already accomplished so much. I had built a new life from the ground up, and I was proud of everything I had achieved. I knew that life would continue to challenge me, but I was ready. I had found my place here, and I was no longer afraid of the unknown. The journey was far from over, but I was confident that I could handle whatever came next. And as I looked at the city skyline, I knew that the best was yet to come. Looking at the city from my apartment window, I realized how far I had come. The uncertainty, fear of failure, and loneliness were now just memories, replaced by a sense of pride and accomplishment. The city, once intimidating, had become my home, teaching me resilience, patience, and the value of change. With a smile, I embraced the future, knowing that every challenge was an opportunity to grow. As the sun set, I felt ready for whatever lay ahead, confident that my journey was just beginning.